so much for taking your time to do this and to share your story. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's cool. We have cultivated, if you want to say, or created a little bit of a friendship on Instagram. So I know a glimpse of your story, but it'll be really cool to hear you walk us through the journey
Yeah, I'm
for
kind of
sure.
excited because I didn't really know like the Instagram community was out there when I first started. And so
Yeah.
we kind of trudged our own path for quite a while, just my husband and I, and my mother-in-law, because obviously she knew, what we were going through and that kind of stuff. And so it was kind of a lonely journey at first. And so um, I'm happy to have found, the Instagram community and have made a bunch of friendships on there. So
For sure.
yeah.
I always tell girls, like, if, even if you just have an Instagram just to like be friends with other people, do that. If you're in infertility, it's worth it for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I love to start with the question, take us back. Take us back to when it all started for you. If you can remember how old you were, when did you find out you needed help, and where did that journey start for you?
Yeah. Okay. So my husband and I were, because I was just feeding Gordy, and I was like, I'm trying to remember like how old I was and when it all started. But honestly, like it seems so long ago now. And it's probably been 8 or 9 years, I think we figured out. Um, it was in the spring, and I realized with talking to a friend, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not had my period in like months. And I stopped having my cycles. And so I was like, okay, this is probably a problem.
Yeah.
And I started with my primary care physician, who simply said, you're overweight, you're overstressed. If you lose some weight, if you cut out some stress, you'll be fine. And for me, at where I was in my life, it wasn't that stressful. I was engaged to my husband, and um, I was looking for a teaching job, but it wasn't, I was subbing every day. So I was still working and that kind of thing. And so for me, like it didn't quite make sense, but we let it go a couple of months. Um, so that was probably, let's see, I'm 39 now. I'm trying to do some math. It'd probably be like, oh gosh, 7, 8 years ago. I always, I always want to go back to like, oh, it's like 7, but
Right.
because it just doesn't seem like it's been, 20 some years. Anyway, so it's probably,
Right.
2012, 2013, maybe right around in there. It was before we got married, because we knew we were going to want to start, trying to have a family, but we didn't know we were going to have any issues, after we got married. And so I started with my primary care physician, who basically said overstressed, overweight, that kind of thing. And we gave it a few more months, and nothing got better. It still didn't come. So my doctor's old school, and he was just like, okay, and he is with the kids too. And so, but I, I knew must have been something else. So I started seeing a gynecologist. He could do it all, but I wanted someone who, like, that was their specialty, that was their job. And so I went to a local gynecologist who, she didn't really do any testing or anything, and just said, okay, well, here's some Clomid,
Hmm.
and so um, we did Clomid for, I think, 6 rounds of up to, she could prescribe up to like 75 milligrams. And so I had to then go, and we did like 6 months of Clomid with nothing at all.
Wow.
And so then we went to, she referred us to a fertility center about an hour away. Both of those were local. So then we had to go about an hour away, and they really didn't do any additional testing either. They just said, okay,
Wow.
here's like 100, milligrams of Clomid. And so we did a couple of doses of that. And then, which, and for me, like, I didn't know,
Yeah.
I just figured, I wasn't cycling. I didn't even know like everything that there is. Yeah, I mean, because there is so much, and
Right.
so, but then, of course, the Clomid did not work. So we ended up doing 8 or 9 rounds of Clomid. And then we did some shots and did timed intercourse. And that seemed to work because we got pregnant. But then about 6 to 8 weeks in, we lost it. We had a miscarriage. And then we started again right away. No, again, no additional testing. They just kind of said, yeah, whenever you're ready, we can do it again. So of course that was, I lost the first one in August, or no, September, sorry. It was Labor Day. Went to school next day. And for me,
wow.
like well, I had 24 kindergartners, waiting for me. Like I didn't really
Yeah.
have a choice. And so I didn't process that one necessarily until May, when I would have been due. And so that's when it hit me harder. I took it harder, in August, like when we lost it, lost the first baby. But for me, it didn't hit me until May, when the stress of school, the end of the school year, baby would have been born, that kind of thing. So, but we tried again in October. We waited another cycle, tried again. But my body was not responding, and they kept upping my dose. And I was missing 2 mornings of school a week, because you have to go every couple of days to get your blood work and your ultrasound and that kind of thing. And so I won't forget, because it was my birthday, and my husband and I, talked about it, and I said, I can't keep doing this. They just kept upping my meds and said, okay, take some more. And, so then I decided I needed a break. And so we took a break, because I mentally and physically, like, I just couldn't do it. And I knew I wasn't giving my students what they needed, and I pride myself on my teaching abilities, those are my first babies, and so we took a break. And a friend of mine, who is actually on our Instagram account too, Jenny, she said she started seeing, she's from Nashville, she started seeing a fertility acupuncturist. So I found one, this was in November, I found one who was 2 hours away and would drive 2 hours to get an hour treatment and drive 2 hours back.
Wow.
But at this point, you want to try anything and everything you can, and so I was doing that, did that for the rest of November and December, and he actually gave me a card of our IVF clinic. We went to Chicago IVF, 3 hours away. The other direction, and so he had said, hey, because I went to him, he was a fertility acupuncturist, and so I told him my history, told him my story, that kind of thing. And he said, well, one of the other patients had success at the clinic. And so we called in January and drove, 3 hours each way to have our appointments. And the first one was a little bit longer because we had to go to a different clinic. We wanted in, sooner than later. Chicago IVF, I think, has 5 offices around the Chicago area, and one in Valparaiso, Indiana, which is where we ended up going. That was our home office. And so he went, our initial consultation, and he's like, well, where's this test result? Where's this test result? And I'm like, we didn't have any of that. This is my husband.
Hello.
Well, those goofballs are trying to put the hatch in the back seat of their car.
Okay. Sorry.
You're fine.
His business is open today, and sometimes the customers are
Gotcha.
fun to watch. But so, Dr. Brash was asking, where all these test results were, and we had none, and at that point I knew, like, we had made a better choice to switch, kind of leave our local clinic, which would have been much more travel efficient, but we weren't getting the results we wanted. And so he originally diagnosed me with PCOS, but I don't know, I had most of the things, most of the, like, boxes that you check, but there was still something I felt was missing. And so he checked my prolactin level, and it was 66, and it was supposed to be close to 0. And he was like,
and what level was this?
My prolactin level.
Prolactin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's supposed to be, when you're breastfeeding or nursing, or pregnant, it gets higher. And so he said, do you have any secretions or anything coming out of your breast? And I was like, no.
Interesting.
He was like, well, your levels would indicate that you should, or you would be having this. And I was like, no, I feel like I would have said something to me, had that been the case,
Wow.
So he said, I want you to get an MRI of your pituitary gland. And so like, okay, and for some reason, I'm thinking your pituitary gland is in your chest because he had been talking about secretions and that kind of thing. And so, and then he says, there will be, there's a possibility of a brain tumor, but most of the time they're benign and that kind of stuff. And I just kind of like blew that part off because I'm like, why is he talking about brain tumors when I was under the impression this is where your pituitary gland is? And so, we go and see the nurse next and get our orders and blood work and that kind of thing. And again, she brings up the brain tumor thing. And I'm like, meanwhile, my husband, he's standing there because this is his favorite part of the story, and he's just kind of like looking at me like, why are you so calm? And, that kind of stuff. And so we went out to lunch afterwards, and we are the type that when we go out to eat, we don't have our phones, even if we just sit there in silence, we just, that's our time. And so
That's good.
we were talking about it, and he brought up the fact that I was so calm and collected, and because I said, what are we going to do if I have an issue, what, like, because I'm thinking they would take one of my breasts and that kind of thing. And so he's like, it's up here. And I was like,
throw your bangs
no.
out.
Oh yeah, he told me I'd have to grow my bangs out, if they had to remove it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So we looked it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could have a burn, and then I knew it was like a bit more serious. And he was right. It was, it's in your brain. And so we
That's
he
funny.
likes to hear he's right. So yeah. So I ended up getting the MRI, and even though our clinic is 3 hours away, I was able to do some of the testing at my local hospital. And so
Oh, good.
we did the MRI at our hospital, and they did find a very small mass on my pituitary gland. And so for me, I kind of feel like that is my issue, like, so with that, he, Dr. Brash was like, okay, we can do this, that's not a problem. I mean, it is a problem, but it's not, because we can kind of combat that. And so we then did a couple of the other, in the meantime, I guess I did the first fertility clinic they checked my tubes because my tubes were open. But I think that's the only one that they did. And since I had already had that done, I just had to have the saline or the sonohistogram. And then they took a biopsy of my lining. That was a surprise test. There was a miscommunication. Didn't know that was happening until like day of.
Biopsy? Yikes.
Yeah. I may have cried.
Yeah.
And to the point the nurses were like, are you okay? And I'm like laying on the table, like, no, I'm not.
Did you have any idea like what it was going to be like?
No.
Wow.
I knew they were going to do the sonohistogram, with the water solution or whatever. I knew they were going to do that one.
Yeah.
And, they had said that one's not very, no, it won't be very painful and stuff like that. And then I get there, and they give me the paper for the biopsy, and it says I should have taken Motrin or something beforehand. And I was like, I didn't do this, like I didn't even know. And so that was a little harsh, but everything came back okay. And so we did our first round of IVF with a fresh 5-day transfer, and had my daughter. And she's actually, we transferred 2. We're pregnant with twins, lost one of them about 12 weeks. It was in the transition time. We went from our IVF clinic, we were released to our local OB, and we lost her twin, but she was okay. And so we had her, and then we had 3.
So question for you, because PCOS is brought up, and for other people who watch this who find out they have PCOS, what was the outcome of the egg retrieval? Like, how many eggs?
Oh yes, yeah. So I had 7 eggs. It took me, Dr. Brush, it took me 3 times the amount of meds it took a like normal IVF person. So I had higher dosages. I had 7 eggs, all 7, and remember, all 7 fertilized. We transferred 2, and then one did not make it. I had 3. Okay, let me do some quick math.
Sure.
No, I had 6, 7, 7 eggs, 6 embryos. We transferred 2 fresh. 1 did not make it to the Cairo stage, so then we had 3 that we froze after that.
Okay.
So not a lot compared to, what
The
some
stories.
people, typically get, and I
Yeah.
didn't know,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that seems good to me.
Yeah.
Because again, this is still when we had not found, the community, that's online and stuff like that. And so we were kind of just trudging along. I had my friend Jenny, and her sister-in-law had also done IVF. And so, those 2 girls were my kind of support system, along with my husband and mother-in-law. I didn't necessarily have the best support from my own family, but you kind of do what you got to do. So, so then we had my daughter, and we knew we wanted another one. So my daughter, we started, her birthday is in April, and we started going back January, just because we knew there might be some testing that needed to be redone and that kind of thing. Because she was a year and a half, or no, she would have been turning a year.
Yeah, like, cause so my Valentina, she was born in April. So all of this is, and then you say January. So I'm like, man, all these things are starting to stir up
Yeah.
for me now. And she's
Yep.
8 months.
Yes. Yep. And so because we knew we wanted, when April, what? Mine's April 19th.
22nd.
Oh, that's so close.
That is so close.
Yeah,
So cute.
yeah. So we started right about this time, and actually it popped up on my Facebook memories that we had a day, which we were going back to our clinic, because we were open a little bit on our own personal Facebook page, just because I got tired of people asking, when are you guys having kids? When are you guys having kids? And that kind of thing, because my husband's very big into the racing community, and, you got to start your kids out racing and that kind of thing. And so when are you having them? And I'm a teacher, and I should love kids, and I do, don't get me wrong. That's why I'm teaching. But, so every once in a while I would give updates, more so after we had Janice, because then people, I wanted them to see, like, you still have issues afterwards, because I was told, with PCOS that I wouldn't be able to breastfeed. And so, because
So was that true?
no, I was able to, yeah.
Okay.
I fed her for a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it took about a week for my milk to come in. So she had formula, she was bottle fed from the beginning and that kind of stuff. And so, but she was also 11 days overdue by the time she came out.
Mine was very overdue.
Yeah. I was telling the doctor, we couldn't get her in, now we can't get her out, like,
I
it's just,
know. What's up with that?
And so when Gordy came 3 weeks early, like, was not, like Janice, we had to force out. So I figured, Gordy would be the same way,
Wow.
But so we started in January, and they did the sonohistogram again, because we were hoping for, as a teacher, I wanted to do all of my kind of treatments and cycles in the spring/summer. So I didn't miss any school, because when I was at the local clinic, we had to miss a lot. And every time we have to go to, our Chicago IVF clinic, it's a whole day off that I have to take,
Yeah.
3 hours there, 3 hours home, in whatever time we have there, to do blood work in our appointments and stuff like that. So we were gearing up for a June transfer. We wanted to do a June transfer. So they did it. They did the sonohistogram, I want to say April, because I had to be done. They wanted me to be done breastfeeding, and I wanted to make it to a year. And so I kind of, a couple of days after her first birthday, I was done nursing her. And so they did the test at the end of April. They found a polyp, and so I had to have that removed. However, when I went in for surgery, it was no longer there. And so, yeah,
Wow.
like and I saw it on the screen, because the nurse was like, wait, what's that? And I was like,
Huh.
yeah, what is that? I could see it kind of flapping in the breeze there. And so, it wasn't a case of like, I didn't see it either. And, it was like an elective surgery just to check, it was, everybody saw it, and
Hmm.
went in for
Huh.
surgery in May and it wasn't there.
Wow.
So
Wow.
in June, we did a frozen transfer then of our 3 remaining embryos we got from Janice's cycle. And we were pregnant with twins and then lost them August 1st
Oh
at 8
man, I'm
weeks.
sorry.
So, um, we were completely kind of devastated and blindsided by that because it worked the first time. We got
Right.
fortunate and, Janice's fresh transfer took. We did not
Mm.
genetically test these embryos, any of them, because we did the cycle, and so
Right.
um, for us, it was very heartbreaking and
Yeah,
a huge kind of blow for us because we
for
were going to
sure.
be done. We were going to have another one, and that was it. We had used up all of our embryos, weren't going to have any left. It was going to be the perfect situation, and it was not perfect at all.
Wow.
And so we were kind of out of money, kind of out of embryos, but my husband is actually the one who said, I'm ready to go back to the clinic today. Like this, but by the end of that week, he was like, I don't even want to go to the racetrack today. I want to go to the clinic and, we will figure something out as far as money goes. But, we can't end it like this. So
Wow.
I was like, get in the car, let's go. I mean, like
Yes.
we were still grieving, don't get me wrong,
Of
but like
course.
it's one of those, like, this is not how it was supposed to be. And so, we obviously waited just a little bit. We went back in October to get kind of doctor's opinion because we were going to wait again until the spring, again, because of school and that kind of thing. But with my advanced age, I am
Mm.
completely geriatric, in terms of the
Right.
infertility world. I mean, I'm 39 now. I'll be 40 this year, so I am feeling old, but he had said, you can't wait. If you want to do this, you have to do this now. And
Yeah.
that kind of took us by surprise. And so that was the end of October, started again in November, right after Thanksgiving, started shots and stuff again, because we had to do everything over. So, and we did a bit of fundraising. We had been saving because we were going to build a house. And so we had a little bit in our savings. We did a couple of fundraisers and we just started selling everything and anything we could, on Facebook, on, my teaching Instagram and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of how we afforded the next one. And a lot of people, donated, once we put it out there that we lost the twins and we were going to try one more time, our friends and family really came through for us. And so had the sonohystogram again, and they found another polyp. And so they let me go through the retrieval. But we were going to genetically test these embryos. And so they said I could do the surgery after our retrieval. I was given the go ahead to do the retrieval first. It would have to be removed for the transfer. So I basically missed more days in December than I taught. And so,
Oh, wow.
because I had to have, the surgery and the retrieval. I had the retrieval one Wednesday, and the following Wednesday I had the polypectomy to remove the polyp. And they went in again, and there was no polyp again.
What? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I know. It's the craziest thing. And it was the same doctor this time who did the sonohystogram, did the removal. And so she went up, obviously as I was coming out of anesthesia, and she went up and told my husband, that they didn't find anything. And he was like, again? So he kids that I had, 2 elective surgeries just for
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Oh man.
So then, and we again had 7
Okay.
7 eggs, 6 embryos. They came back. We had them tested, and it seemed like it took forever because it was right before Christmas, and then we didn't get our results back until after the first of the year. And so we had 4 come back normal, and then we had 1 abnormal and 1 mosaic. So we thought that was pretty good. Oh, let me back up a second. Yeah, after our miscarriage, they did the recurring pregnancy loss test, blood work, and found that I was not absorbing folic acid like I should. So they added Folgate to my my plan, my
wow.
treatment.
Okay.
So with the results that we had, having 4 of them come back normal, like I fully believe that was part of the problem as to why we lost Janice's twin, and then we lost the twins,
it sucks.
in August. Yeah, because I just can't imagine that, we didn't have more than 1 good embryo on that round when we had, 4 good ones this round. Like that's just my personal opinion,
Yeah.
So,
and I have a question. Did you ever get like really intensive, like a blood panel done, like to find out if you have the MTHFR gene at all? Do you know?
Well, so I want to say yes, but again, like I'm one of those that I didn't research all of this stuff. You know what I mean?
It's a lot. Yeah.
And I didn't pay attention to what things were being ordered. And, we kind of put our full trust into our doctor. And so I want to say yes, that they did that, because after joining like a couple of, Facebook groups and stuff like that, like, people have said, oh, that would have been this that you had done or something, so I want to say yes, but
okay.
Just wondering. I know I'm not the best person like to know like all of the medical terms and stuff like that, and I felt bad, and I gotta say, like, I was so nervous beforehand, like, and I don't know why, because I've shared my story so many times, but I was really nervous because I don't want to look dumb because I don't know the names and stuff like that, but when you go through it, for so long kind of by yourself, and you don't know what you're doing, you just kind of go with it. And it's one of those things.
It's a lot of information.
Well, and they're professionals, they are the medical professionals, and I trusted them, so we're coming up on Gordy's transfer bursary at the end of January. We did decide just to transfer 1 this time, even though I really wanted twins. I've said it since I was a young kid, like, I'm going to have twins, but we decided we were going to go kind of the safer route and just do 1, and kind of put all our.
So you had 4 chromosomally normal ones, 1 mosaic and 1 that was
abnormal.
They
didn't say what was, it just came back abnormal. So
okay.
Yeah. So we transferred.
That is a good amount.
Yeah. And I see all these people getting like 30, 40 eggs and stuff. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I had 7, and I was ecstatic with those 7, because we did end up with, 6 of them, fertilizing. And then when we tested, this batch of embryos, we had 4 that came back normal. So we were pretty happy with that.
I mean, that's great. It seems like, the quality of the eggs or the embryos isn't really an issue.
Yeah. I think for us, it was more so like how my body was responding, and what my body was doing once we were able to get those eggs out, and create embryos. That was fine. It was just like what my body was doing kind of to start with,
Every case is different. It's crazy.
It is. And I did have, I forgot to mention, I did have the mass on my pituitary gland checked. That was one thing we had to do when we went back last January, or no, 2 years ago in January, before we did the cycle with the twins. I did have to have that checked, and there was no change. And so I don't have to go back again for, I think they said 3 or 4 years, because there was no change in it. And it wasn't anything that they felt, would need to be removed. it could be combated with medicine. And so,
Good.
yeah, that's kind of, I think, so then we transferred one, and we did choose a boy. We had 3 boys, 1 girl out of those normal ones.
Okay.
And so we chose the best graded boy embryo that we had, male embryo that we had. And so that resulted in Gordy joining us in September, the end of September. So yeah.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have 3, well, we have all of our remaining 5.
You asked anybody that would listen whether you should transfer 1 or 2.
I
Even the
did.
girl working the genetics lab.
I did. I did. I asked everybody, because I was torn, because for me, it was part of that. Well, if we transfer 2 and one of them doesn't stick, like happened with, Janice, now both of hers did stick, we lost her twin, further along, but it was a case of like, the more you put in, the better chance you have, and our embryologist was really nice, and she kind of laid it all out, and that is not the case, that you don't have a higher chance, transferring more embryos. You really don't, and so, and I know that's what some people do struggle with, is how many to put in and that kind of thing. But I was torn. I wanted to kind of do, again, I wanted twins, and, I had always wanted twins. And so, but we did end up going with one. And so he joined us, and our other 5 are still frozen.
I haven't spoken to anyone who has the story that you have. So thanks for sharing that with us, because I think it's so good. Because somewhere down the line, someone might have an issue, with a mass in their pituitary gland, or, something like that, or find out they have PCOS. And it's just good for women to see the possibilities like that we wish we had when we were younger, going through this journey, for sure. Looking back on your journey, is there anything that you would have told yourself that would have maybe helped you along the way, or maybe would have gotten you where you needed to go faster, or anything like that?
I think just ask questions. If you don't understand anything, or if you don't understand something, ask questions. You may be scared, again, to think for doctors or something, to think that you are unintelligent, or you don't know what you're doing, but it is all new, and everybody's case is different. It really is. You cannot compare. It's like apples to bananas. Because what works for me, and even if you have the same thing, your body is not necessarily going to respond the same way as mine does. And so ask questions, don't compare, and find some people to help you, even if they are, people you meet through the community. Having my friend Jenny and Patty, and then they introduced me to their friend Kristen. So we have the 4 of us have a group text. I wouldn't have been able to make it through all of the later part of our journey without them, and my husband and his mom. Yes.
And if there weren't like 18 tests to start with, the clinic's not doing a good job.
Yeah. Like for us, like our first couple clinics, they didn't do testing, so and so for me, like, but again, we didn't know, we didn't know what should happen. We didn't know how things should work. Looking back, I should have questioned. I should have said, this clearly is not working, like what could be the problem, instead of just saying, well, here's more meds, so, asking questions. And you really have to advocate for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. I got to that point that I needed to stop. They would have let me keep going. They would have let me keep pushing more meds and higher doses at my first clinic. And for me, like, I was not okay. I mentally, I was, starting to kind of spiral, and the emotional toll and physical toll it was taking, like, it was just, you gotta be your biggest advocate, and it will help you tremendously.
For sure. And the good news is that, you don't have to look very far, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, and find other women going through different scenarios. I know for me, when I knew I was going through IVF, I started watching all kinds of people who have already gone before me. And there
Yeah.
were a couple of girls, actually, there was one girl that she had the ERA, and her story was very similar, not the
Mhm.
same, but it was similar. And she kept trying to get pregnant over and over and over. It never happened. And then I found out the ERA test from her, and then I shared it on my YouTube, and and there were so many girls who found it out from me. So it's like, it's like a gift that keeps giving. You just make
Yeah.
sure that you give out that information because it can help somebody else in big
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. And since, after Janice, once we finally kind of came out with the plan for Janice, and um I started giving updates, and so they all kind of pop up on my Facebook page. But I had a lot of people, just my friends and family on my personal Facebook page, who have kind of said, "Hey, I've been there. I
Mm.
know, I don't know all of it, but I know parts of it. Like we lost our baby. This, we had a miscarriage. We, had to do fertility treatments, and a friend that I didn't know had issues. She said, "Hey, I have leftover meds." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, because you don't know people's journey, and some people
mm,
aren't comfortable talking about it. I just had a teacher friend on my teacher Instagram announce, and I kind of had an inkling because she had asked me a couple of questions like a few years ago, but that was kind of it. And she just announced that they are pregnant and had to go through
okay.
some treatments. I don't know what they went through. Again, you don't know everybody's
Yeah,
journey, but
right.
just I'm happy for her and happy that she found
Mm.
some support, and some help to get her through that.
For sure. So
Yeah.
important. That support is key.
Hmm.
Thanks, Betty. Thanks
Yeah.
for just sharing your story. And gosh, my heart goes out to you for all the
Thank
losses
you.
that you had to
Thank you.
experience. Yeah, I know others are going to be able to just relate to you. There's a lot of women hurting. There's a lot of women who have experienced that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just to see that others are going through it, it's not that it brings you comfort, but it's just like, wow, I'm not the only one.
Right. Yeah. And I think that was kind of, I don't know, I hold a lot of stuff in. And so
I do too.
um, I, I'm open about that stuff, but then like, I'm hurting more like deep down inside,
Yeah.
and to think, you know, um it kind of hits a couple different times throughout the year because one, when I lost them, and two, kind of when they would have been due, or
Right.
seeing there's another lady on Instagram who was did her cycle about the same time, and her little girl would have been about the same age as my twins, and that kind of stuff. And so that's what kind of it still hurts, and I think it always will, but knowing that there are other people, and this this lady had some losses in there too. And so I'm not mad at her, like I'm not mad at anybody. I want
Right.
them to be able to you know experience the joy of having kids, and the happiness and that kind of thing. But there are definitely some triggers that I just kind of hold in, and that kind of stuff. But just
Yeah.
knowing that there are so many people, and it's not talked about, and that's kind of
Right.
why I decided to start talking about it. And even if I can help one person,
Yeah.
I've done what I wanted to do, and help somebody not feel alone in this, because
Exactly.
we kind of did the journey for a while by ourselves, and it was tough. It really was. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I thank you for sharing all these different stories. I love to see them, and I love watching them, and just getting to know everybody's story, because they are all so different.
Very
It
much.
is fun. And so thank you for what you're doing for the
Yes.
community. And
My pleasure.
it's
My pleasure.
yeah, yeah,
It's sweet to be able to touch, virtually each
yeah,
person. It's really cool.
yeah.
Because I know that you share your story on Instagram, where can people find you?
I am at Friends at IVF. I share the Instagram page with two other ladies who did IVF, also. Um, I'm not 100% sure where they are in their journeys. If they're to have some more, they both, one has 2 girls and one has a boy from IVF. And so I have been the one who's been on there most recently, just because that was my kind of, not my turn, but my cycle and stuff. And so, but Friends, the IVF is where I can be found on Instagram. So
Awesome. Yeah, keep sharing your sweet family. I love to follow you.
I love, and see, that's the part that I like the most, and I hope that people see that. And, and I understand if people follow along and then they need to mute me for a while or unfollow, or, because it is hard and stuff like that. But that's the part that makes me happy, is to see, and I get a sense that the times are changing, because there has been so many people who have gotten their positives recently, or in the past couple of months. I feel the shift, and I hope it continues, so everybody can experience their miracles and their happiness. So yeah.
Me too. Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And love on your babies for me.
Oh, yes, I will. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, take care. And I'm sure we will talk, much on Instagram. What I'm going to do is, when I put this video out, I will tag you. Well, how does that work with the other girls who share the account?
You can just say it's Betty, because we each have like our own little highlights too. On the page. And I don't know, I think the one is done, and so I don't know if she's going to be sharing much more on there. But I'm invested in so many people's journeys now, that I have to I'm going to continue, so I'm going to continue to be present and stuff like that. And so I think even when they do come on, if they come on and post stuff, like we've been trying to make sure that if it's somebody else, like when Kristen comes on, she would say, hey, it's Kristen, and like tag her stuff and with Kristen and that kind of thing. So if you just want to say it's Betty, from Friends at IVF. I'll
do that then. Very good. I'll try to get it out in the next couple 2 to 3 weeks or something like that, because I have a group that I'm already editing. So
no, that's perfectly fine. I'm excited to see it. I kind of feel like I'm a mess, but that's part of the journey, is nothing goes to plan. And
it does not
plan all you want. And I had planned to take a shower this morning and do my hair, and I think I have some baby spit up in my hair actually from Morty, because it just didn't go as planned, and I'm one of those that, but I kind of feel like this is me. This is the face that everybody sees, because
there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. And more people can relate to that than anything else. So you're all good, girl.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be in touch.
I will. Thank you, dear.
Yeah, thank you.